In terms of introductions, you heard who everyone is, so where is the clicker? Here we go. I am the co-founder of Stance. Emmanuel is the other founder of Stance. We began the company in 2013. Rahul is the global head of marketing and advertising negotiation at Uber. And we're going to talk a little bit about rapid data, decision-making processes, some of the problems, and how we can address them and make that better. Because one of the themes that we've been continually hearing throughout the conference is people want answers. And they want answers faster, and they want better answers. So how do we get that? What is the construct and the structure to enable that? These are the 5 topics that we'd like to touch on today. Obviously, you're welcome to ask whatever you like in the Q&A session thereafter. Do existing methods enable quick data-backed decisions? Does the industry need more organic insights as opposed to inorganic insights? Natural conversation? How can rewards be improved to better recruit and incent and motivate respondents? Why are the existing pieces of research and data that are available today potentially insufficient to make rapid decisions? What are the pitfalls? What are the shortfalls? What can be done to augment that? And what can be done to just make the entire overall process at its core more efficient? So we'll start here. Do existing methods enable quick data-backed decisions? I'll give you a moment to look at that. Collecting information, as we've seen it, can take a long time. And sometimes by the time that information is captured, it becomes stale. Rahul, from your experience at Uber, what challenges do you see in terms of collecting information quickly and ensuring that you receive it and can apply it into action and impact in a timely manner?
Okay. Thanks, Sumit. I think I'll start with a really quick example of where Uber has shown really quick decision-making in your own lives. So how many of you have taken an Uber here? Okay, cool. And how many of you have taken a Lyft? Get out of the room. No, I'm kidding. It's cool. Both products are great. And what I wanted to kind of think about for you guys is, how many of you guys took a cab in the past to the airport? How long did it take before you, how long before did you order it? Maybe like 1 day, 2 days beforehand? How long do you now wait in order to order an Uber? Maybe 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes if you're in the suburbs. So think about that. You went from a 1 day cycle time to a 3 minute cycle time. That's amazing. And so if you think about the market research industry, where I think the average cycle time is around 8 to 12 weeks for a study to be completed, that decision-making process maybe has some room for improvement.
Sure, I'll tack on to the same example that Rahul provided. I think there's an element to speed that's often lost in our conversations about speed. We think about speed as, time to a result. And the industry has built models, workflows around certain assumptions related to the time it takes to get results. So Rahul's example is interesting. When you order this taxi a day in advance, you get what you get. And if that taxi shows up and you're concerned about your safety getting into it, you're not going to wait till the next day. You're going to get on that taxi and pray. The same thing happens with data. We have gotten so used to a model where things take weeks that we settle for results instead of answers. And so the element that gets lost when we talk about speed is iteration. When you call an Uber and you see on the app the car you're getting, and it's not something you want to be in, you can cancel the ride and call another one. If there's some other issue with the car, the driver, you can cancel and get another one. That's iteration. When you look at the way you do, say, a Google search, which is another great analogy for this problem, if you are looking for certain information online, you run a Google query, you get millions of pages, but we all know the real answer is in the first 10. So you browse a few pages, and based on most of the time, in my case, the answers are not in one of those pages. So I move on. I tweak my query, I get more answers. After a few cycles, I find an answer. So my initial query returns results. All of my queries return results, but I'm seeking answers. And because a Google search does not take 8 weeks to return results, I don't settle for the results, for the first results I get. I can iterate, fine-tune what I'm looking for, so I get answers. And so when we talk about speed, you might think, well, do I really need to have answers immediately, right? But I think the answer is often yes. It's just that our workflows have been designed for a more kind of long-tail process. And once we have the capability to get answers quicker, like with Google, you will find that with this new ability to rapidly iterate your queries, you go from accepting results to actually being able to get answers in less time than it took you to get to results that oftentimes you simply settled.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Emmanuel. I think what I hear from that is, listen, it's not always just about getting the right questions out there, but it's seeking answers in a rapid format. And I think that's absolutely where we're going, right? So if you do an 8 to 12 week study and you find out that 8 to 12 weeks in, the answer was obvious, how do you stop the process 1 to 2 weeks in and just go and change the question or answer you're looking for? So I think you're spot on with the Google example.
So let's address a different issue that comes up, which is the distinction between natural conversation and organic insights versus essentially focus groups, surveys, panels, IDIs, which are highly inorganic and as a result, don't result in very natural insights. They introduce biases, they introduce pitfalls. Rahul, at Uber, how do you deal with this problem of making sure that the results, the answers that are coming to you are high fidelity, high integrity?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I think about when we think about data and organic insights is natural conversation, right? So natural conversation really comes down to, if you were back in the old days of market research, before there was digital, that was very observational, right? So you were looking and you were seeing how animals were playing in Africa. You were looking and seeing how babies interacted with toys. And so that paradigm of understanding how their organic or natural interactions occurred was very, very, very seamless, and it was very insightful. And I think what's happened here is that you see surveys and you see focus groups, and they've built an online version of that, which is one way and one method. But there is another method, which is like communities, which allows you to go ahead and see a natural conversation where maybe drivers are interacting with drivers or riders are interacting with riders. So first, today at Uber, there are plenty of driver communities out there. So example, there are WhatsApp groups and there are Facebook groups. The challenge with the WhatsApp groups and the Facebook groups that we have today is that those channels aren't managed by us. So a lot of the conversation is out of control sometimes. We're not necessarily able to participate in that conversation, and we don't have the data and control to gather all of the insights, pull them in, and then take those insights from there and actually take action on them. And then I think the other thing about them is that the setup of the online communities that are out there today, the Facebook groups and the WhatsApp groups, the challenge with those is that they're not as exactly measurable because of the paradigm in which they're set up. So I think those are some of the challenges that I'm seeing with, the surveys and the focus groups not having that organic feel. But then also the ones that are organic today, we're not necessarily controlling the conversation with, nor can we measure it in an effective manner.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, I think we all intuitively understand that if you're prompted by a teacher or parent about homework, you're going to give them a different answer than you would give your friend. Not all the time, but sometimes. And oftentimes it's not, there's no intent to mislead. It's just context changes the way we approach problems, just cognitively. And so one thing we've tried to do at Stance, in addition to speed, and with this focus on the ability to iterate, is how can we make those conversations as close to conversations between peers as possible? How do we allow our clients to peek into those conversations, understand them, have the full context, because there's so much around each individual opinion that can help you better understand how that person arrived there? So how do we build an environment where we can have peer-to-peer conversations that are happening in real time? And so that you as a client, you're able to not only observe what would be essentially individuals, having conversations with friends, but once you detect that, all right, there's some very interesting point that I would like to pursue further, this ability to now directly engage those participants, directly or in a public forum, to better understand what that conversation is about, what inspires that position. You end up with conversations and, as an effect, answers that are a lot more authentic.
So when you're trying to get these answers from people, the reward system, what can be done today to better get respondents, get the appropriate respondents, and motivate them?
Okay, how many people in this room have done a reward study? Okay. All right, so there are two types of rewards. There are extrinsic rewards, and there are intrinsic rewards, right? We've all studied that. So extrinsic rewards are cash-based. Hey, I'll give you $5, you'll do something. Intrinsic rewards are much more meaningful. They're recognition-based. They're values-based. They're mission-based, right? So as an example, if I go to our drivers today and tell them, here's some cash, go drive, that doesn't really make them feel good about driving. But if we tell them about the freedom and the flexibility, the fact that they're helping someone get from point A to point B, if you tell them that, hey, if you've seen the latest things that you can tell a driver, you've done a fantastic job, excellent driving, great customer service, that meaningful feedback is so much more valuable in some ways than just giving a cash reward. Now, I'm not saying cash rewards aren't important either, right? So there's tips. But what we need to kind of take a step back and say is $5 for a survey response, $10 for a survey response. That's one mechanism to make someone feel good about something. But are there other ways that we could do that are more intrinsically motivated? I mean, I guess that's the question I would ask Emmanuel.
Yeah, great question. Rewards are essential in this industry. Incentives are essential. So I think there's no question that current systems of incentivizing behavior do have a place, and they do work. But that doesn't mean they can't be improved. That doesn't mean that we cannot reach a place where significant amounts of data, of answers, are being extracted from individuals who are motivated intrinsically. And it's possible, we all know it's possible, because I'm sure most of you have some social media accounts. I'm sure you share opinions there. And I know that Facebook has never paid you. I know that Twitter has never paid you and probably never will. But you still share opinions and you share them authentically. One of the problems with that medium, though, is it is not structured, and organizations outside Facebook have no real access to the underlying data set. But what if you could? What if you could have an environment where people are sharing their opinions primarily for intrinsic reasons, but you have access, similar access to what Facebook has to understand, or Twitter to understand the insights? Obviously, that would be powerful. So, but understanding that rewards have a role, we've taken that and found a way to, primarily attract users by leveraging their kind of intrinsic need to be heard, but then supplementing that with an economy where you could then offer rewards for very specific behavior, very specific outcomes you seek. So there is a balance between the two. And the industry is at a point now, the internet is at a point now where you can be upfront with people, you don't have to lie, you don't have to invade privacy, you can explain to them, because they want organizations to understand them. They want organizations to know what they want when they want it. And we believe that there is a way to slowly move the needle so that we end up with a more healthy balance of opinions being shared for both intrinsic as well as extrinsic, based on intrinsic and extrinsic incentives.
And so thank you, Emmanuel. And so today in the research paradigms, there's lots of data and pre-existing research essentially available. What are the limitations, if any, that you see in making quick decisions with those providers? Why are they insufficient, if at all?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think a lot of our providers do a really, really great job. And I'm not necessarily allowed to mention any of them, actually. But if we keep a secret in this room, Ipsos is one of our favorite providers. I know they're in the room, and they've done an amazing job for us. So thank you, Ipsos. I think what you're alluding to, Sumit, is how do you get into this rapid format of answers? And I think that piece doesn't necessarily always have to come from the same providers. It can come from new providers. So when I think about companies like Stance, I think about how they were built and what they were built with and what they were built for. So Silicon Valley companies such as Uber and such as Stance, they came from a very, very fast, iterative mindset. And so at our company, the word that we use is experimentation, and then the other word that we use is rapid. And so what we're constantly trying to do is be iterative, be agile, and test things. Because once you set up a framework for iterative, agile testing, similar to how if you guys are familiar with software coding used to be the same way. You would go code a bunch of features, then you'd launch it out into the ecosystem and see what people thought. But now when you think about software development, what's really happening is that you push out a feature, you see how people respond, you do A/B testing on it. And I think that sort of iterative environment is essential to rapid decision-making and an iterative thought mindset. So we really believe in experimentation in our company. So I think those are the kinds of things that are the themes and the cultures and the mindsets that are built. I would definitely not say that Nielsen or Ipsos couldn't do those things. I definitely think they can. I think sometimes there's a culture that needs to be built internally within your company or sourcing it from companies such as Stance who are already starting with that mindset as the foundation of their company. I don't know if I represented that correctly.
Sure. I'll say really quickly that the existing tools are powerful, absolutely. And there are efforts that do require weeks. We see Stance and the solution we provide as an essential element in a broader ecosystem, as one tool in addition to existing tools that can help provide better results in this very specific context of speed and iteration.
Great. I think we're running on time here. And so, please. Yeah.
This is the Gong Show Kane pulling you off stage.
Okay.
Yeah, so sorry, we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming. Will you guys be hanging out through the break?
Yes.
People have questions, want to talk to you?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll be
you,
here
everyone.
during the break. Thank you so much.
Thank you to IIeX.